If I could go back and stand on those yellow footprints that night that I went to boot camp and do everything once again, I would change a lot of things. Probably not about the military or my MOS or my training or the people I met, but just in general, my mindset about money, right? Because we actually go into the military with a plan. We go into the military because we want to improve our lives. We want to make everything better. Back then, I was 19. I was living at my parents' house. I was going to go to school half time, part time during the day. And then later on at night, I was working at a restaurant. I started off as a busser. It's back-breaking work. Those who have worked the service industry will understand. You have to work 8 to 10 hours and you only get one 30-minute break and a 15-minute break, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of just rest and eat. And it's not enough, right? If you work in an environment that's actually pretty busy in a restaurant that has a lot of people going and trying to eat there, you're not going to stop in those 8 to 10 hours that you might be working that day. I remember I used to get paid about $7 an hour back then. This was in San Diego. I was 19. That was back in 2009. And I just couldn't resist the thought of moving forward and finding another job that would pay me better. I would eventually become a server in that job, and the tips that I received were far superior that the tips that I got when I was a busser. I was making about like $200 a night in just tips. And this was all cash, nothing that was taxable per se. I could just stack this cash up, but I never really saved any of it. I never really invested any of it. All I did was spend it, and all I did was spend it on not even good stuff that I could use in the future, trapped in this cycle of consumerism, and you can't stop. And that's what I was in back then. So where did all that money go? I have no idea. I don't have any of it right now. So the military became a place that supposedly was going to change my life and change my financial situation. I thought back then that I would go into the Marines, that I would serve 5 years, and that I would get out and have a really good job working for either the CIA, the FBI, or the DA, which were my top three contenders of places I wanted to go after I finished the military. But lo and behold, that's not the way that it happened. It didn't unfold that way. My plan never really worked. I don't regret anything that I did, but there are so many things that I would do differently and that I want to share with you, because if you're a younger guy, or even if you're older, but you're considering going into the military, you should know a couple of things before you do it. One of them is that if you go in thinking that you're going to be in there forever and that you're going to make a career out of it, it's almost 10% of people who go in who stay the 20, 25 years that you need to stay in order to retire from the military. It's not that many people. In retrospect, I remember a lot of people while I was in boot camp and my MOS school were thinking that they were going to stay there for 20 years and retire, and they were going to be making that retirement pension money just forever. And the fact of the matter is that there's so many things that happen. One of the biggest things is that people get married in the military. So you might have heard that it's common for new recruits that just got off boot camp to go ahead and call their longtime girlfriend back home and tell her that if they get married, they're going to get all these benefits. And that's all good. But the problem is that you start noticing immediately that it might have been a very immature decision to make that ends up biting you in the ass down the line. Because having a relationship and having someone who is going to perhaps sometimes have different opinions and different plans is going to eventually either steer you completely in another direction that's not the military, or it's going to support you in a way that you are going to be there for the next 20, 25 years. But for the most part, it tends to be someone whispering in your ear that there are bigger and better things to do, which there are. I mean, the military shouldn't be the ultimate game goal, right? It's part of the game, but eventually there are so many other things that you can do with the experience that you get in the military in order to produce more income and live a wealthier, more financially free life. So, if you go in thinking that you're going to be in there forever, there's going to be marriage that might not work out, or it will work out, but your partner will ask you to get out of there. You might get PCS somewhere that you hate. Then it's also the fact that a lot of people get injured while you're on deployment, while you're on training, and you might be medically separated, and you're going to eventually go out into the civilian world and realize that this thing that you thought was going to be forever is literally not even going to be more than a couple of years. In many cases, I got a lot of friends that went in, and in the second, third year that they were in, they got injured, and that's it. They went back to doing everything that they were doing before they left the military. They never really got to the place where they wanted to get. And that's life, I understand, but this is just my advice in case you still think that this is going to be something that's forever. The other lesson that I would have wanted someone to tell me, and now I know what I would have done in my first year, second year, even first couple of months, is to make better money moves. I wanted to become wealthier. I wanted to get to a better place financially by getting the experience that the Marine Corps was going to give me, and then later on move into another field of work that career was going to pay me better. But I could have done many things to improve that situation way before I started doing those things to improve that situation, if that makes sense. I went into boot camp, I think in October or September. I can't remember. I might have to go back and check my DD 214. But as soon as I got out, I spent all my money, all the money that I had saved up and that was accumulating. And I think it was only like 2,000 bucks or something, but 2,000 bucks is a good amount of money to start your investment journey. Also, the contributions to my TSP were completely just lame, just left to kind of like become a secondhand thought. And I never prioritized doing all these things because I never knew how much it would matter down the line. So I would definitely, if I was back in my shoes when I was 19, I would start investing money much earlier. I would start contributing more to my TSP much earlier. I didn't contribute anything to my TSP and left pretty much close to broke. I would never recommend that someone splurges and spends so much money without investing first. You can every now and then splurge a little bit, but it's only after you already invested some money into your future self. Your future self is always going to appreciate what your past self did in terms of sacrifice, because you might not realize it right now, but the things that you do right now, the decisions that you make right now, are going to influence your future self 5, 10 years down the line. Another lesson that I would have told myself is to choose my circle wisely. I always hung out with the outcasts, with the troublemakers, not to disrespect any of my Marine brothers, that I just actually received Instagram message from one of them right now. But I mean, we were all rowdy kids, right? We were bad kids. We were bad adults because we weren't even kids by then. I was 19. They were 19 as well. We had a friend, Renteria, who already passed away, who I remember with a very, very near and dear heart every time I remember him. And I get all these sorts of emotions. But he passed away to cancer not too long ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. And he was already like 25, 26 by the time that he was in. And he always would get us alcohol, right? Alcohol and women will ruin you if you don't know how to treat them, how to become responsible for your actions around those things. And we always used to drink. I used to drink underage in the military. I'm not proud of it. I don't regret it either, but that's just how it went. And if I look back in retrospect, even though these are still my brothers, I would probably hang out with them less and focus more on finishing what I had started. I would focus more on creating some sort of side income, side hustle, something that I could have sold as far as a product or a service while I was in, or I would focus more on traveling, right? Investing, all the things that I know that right now matter and that make my life complete. I would have focused on that instead of hanging out with the boys. So I would choose my circle wisely. Sometimes the guys that are a little bit more boring tend to be the guys who have a better head on their shoulder. Another lesson I would have told myself is to use all my resources available. I would have used the tuition assistance. I would have used SkillBridge, which actually helps you build skills, work skills, and professional skills with a person that does that thing that you're trying to get into. And the fact that you're a service member actually allows you to speed up the process of getting an internship or getting hired as an apprentice in most of these jobs. So I would have done many of those things, but I never did. I would have used my VA loan while I was in, because as opposed to what I tell people right now in active duty who are interested in using their BAH to improve their financial standing, I never did that. So I would definitely do it if I was back being 19. I would contribute more to my TSP, and I would just use all the resources. Like, you can still use the resources while you're in. You don't have to wait to use them till you get out. Those benefits, those resources, they're there for you, and I would use them from day one. The last thing I would tell myself to kind of like wake up and get going is to think beyond the uniform. While you're in there, and you will experience this, you will have sort of a mentality that the world is just what happens inside your base, that the world is just what happens between the members of your unit, that your CO is the leader and president of your world, right? And there's so many other areas of knowledge, areas of focus that you can get into while you're still there and kind of like dabble in. I was young. I was just 19. In retrospect, the guys that went in there that were 25, 26, they had already lived 7 more years than me, 6 more years than me, and they had a different take on the military. They saw it as a catapult to get to their goals quicker, a leverage point to increase the odds that they had at success. But I was young and I didn't understand that. That's the biggest thing. But now, if I was talking to that guy, or I'm talking to you guys, and you're 19, you're 20, and you're going into the military, please think beyond the uniform. You're a human, you're a spiritual being, you're this complex mix of different systems and intricacies and characteristics. So don't just think that you're a boot, that you're just a uniform. Think about what other things make you complete, what other things interest you. And you can use the military, the paycheck you get, the BAH you get, the benefits you get, in order to explore all those other things that interest you. So That's what I would tell my 19-year-old self before going to boot camp, before staying on those yellow footprints. And if you are considering it or you're in right now and you want to learn more about the things that you could do to increase the odds of you being successful in the future and in the present, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so you can see all the new videos that come out. If you have any questions or just want to share your story, comment down below and we will include you and welcome you into our community. I appreciate you coming to watch this video and see you in the next one.